Chapter 16 of Life in a Thousand Worlds. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Lizzie Driver. Life in a Thousand Worlds by William Shuler Harris. Chapter 16 A Singular Planet. I visited the other 70 worlds that revolve around Sirius. Among them is one of note, called Zik, which is 4,200 millions of miles from its sun, and is slightly smaller than our world. It is inhabited by a race of pygmies, which I will call Zikites. Wonderful indeed is the intelligence of these creatures, although their form is out of symmetry according to our standards. I will therefore avoid a description of their physical features, lest it mar the picture of their accomplishments. The air of Zik is heavy, and the sky is opal in its effects. The chemists have thus far found in nature 90 elementary substances, and it is partly due to this large variety that the Zikites have surpassed their fellow men in thousands of worlds. As you study the past events of this unusual planet, you are reminded of our own history. On Zik there are heathen tribes and all grades of conflicting civilized nations. War has reddened this distant world for several thousand years, and as yet there is no peace. Notwithstanding all this unceasing upheaval, the tide of human progress has steadily risen. It does appear that the highest light of intellect is generated like electric light through sharp fiction. The Zikites have had their men of war, vessels of mighty strength and death-dealing in their action. But all such defence has been abandoned over 500 years ago, and it came about in a natural manner. One of the many illustrious inventors perfected the submarine boat and the flying machine at about the same time. Their flying machine might appropriately be called in our language the Flying Devil, for such it is if you consider its destroying power. One of these ominous-looking machines is capable of destroying a whole navy as fast as it can move high in the air from one vessel to another. It can also tear to pieces an enemy's camp that lies in the open field. All this is accomplished by dropping shells composed partly of some elements not found in our world. These shells are made in such a way that they explode as soon as they touch any substance, and the concussion is much more terrible than is caused by our most powerful explosives. Because no ship could hold together under such destructive shells, the nations abandoned their navies and devoted their energy to devising a safe camp for soldiers, and to building these air vessels with additional improvements. It was found that the only way to protect a camp was to cover it with a waterproof shed, so constructed that 9 or 10 inches of water would remain on the roof. Then a wide, shallow trench was dug around the shed, and kept filled with water. These shells will not explode if they fall into that depth of water, but will explode in water of greater depth. You can see at a glance how difficult it is to manage an army under these circumstances. The only redeeming feature is that the enemy also is compelled to resort to the same protection. An international law forbids the destruction of homes in times of war. Wars are of short duration. Usually the decisive conflict is fought in the air, and is the most terrible of them all. Imagine 2 of these flying devils approaching one another far above the surface of Zik. Each vessel is set in action long before it is in range of the other, in hope of firing the first effective shot. Each party of the conflict knows that the air vessel first struck will be at an end forever, for it will be blown to pieces, and every life on board will be shattered into shapeless masses, while the wreckage falls amidst the burning of the combustibles. What a horrible ending of a short battle! The wisest of the Zikites have proposed many plans to settle international differences, but, like us, they have failed to suggest any plan that has proved to be practicable. The largest nation of Zik has advanced far ahead of us on the labour question, but this was not reached until the contest between capital and labour had left its blood marks through many centuries. A brief description of the manner in which the industrial problem was solved will not be out of place. I will waste no words in showing the many points of difference between our customs and those of Zik. After hundreds of years of painful struggling, the many labourers of this largest nation completed a solid organization and thereby gained control of the whole government. Then, in their zeal to legislate in favour of the labouring classes, the ruling element stepped to the other extreme by passing many unreasonable laws. Things passed along in this unsettled condition until a certain few of the labour leaders, having become wealthy themselves, yielded to a heavy bribe, and amended the laws so as to favour the wealthy minority. The magnates of capital shrewdly took advantage of this traitorship, and in the following campaign won the national election. The wealthy, now having the reins of power in their own hands, took the initiative, and called for a consultation between the heads of the government and the chief leaders of labour. This proved to be a wise political move, and, as a result, a new system of laws relating to all trades and occupations was enacted. The following conditions still prevail. 1. A day's work consists of 1/4 less hours. 2. A minimum scale of wages is adopted for each trade. This scale is based upon the price of certain staple articles, and within a certain limit it rises or falls with the price of these necessities. 3. All regular citizens must be supplied with work if they desire it. If they cannot get employment from some firm or corporation, the government officials represented locally must supply it, or its equivalent in money. The government controls enough of the business to employ 2/3 of the male population. This enables the government to take so great a responsibility and bear it with satisfactory results. 4. Any man through negligence failing to support his family is put to the government penitentiary service, and his family is thereafter supported from the public treasury. 5. A widow or orphan is cared for by regular authorities. The by-laws of this 5th article regulate the work of women. 6. No credit is allowed, except on a government credit slip, signed by the local representative of the state. If the bill is not paid by the one making the debt, the amount of which is always stipulated, the government will pay it, and proceed to collect it in one of 3 ways. The last resort is according to Article 4. There are several other sections governing private ownership of property, land, and business. These new laws have had a very good effect. The number of persons getting immensely wealthy gradually decreased, and the average wealth of the labourers increased. The government has the power at any time to form a trust or combination of any line of business by paying liberally to those already engaged in it. This assists the government in carrying its heavy financial burdens, and every family is assured of support if the soil produces enough to feed the people. And now, if I knew how to describe elements that have no resemblance to anything in our world, I would proceed to tell a story of interest to chemists. These Zikites have formed gases and solids unknown to us, and naturally they are capable of performing experiments more wonderful than anything ever known in our world. When I saw the wizard-like performances, I thought that the marvellous feats of the Orient were being performed on a scale more mysterious and magnificent. To see a man play with red-hot irons and dance in a seething furnace makes one believe that his eyes are deceiving him. I saw a man draw the birds from heaven, and dormant reptiles from the soil, but ask me not to tell how. A few of these Zikites have discovered some wonderful secrets of nature, and will not disclose them except to certain ones of their own lineage. One of these secrets is the art of embalming the dead so perfectly that human features are retained forever, unless destroyed by fire or human effort. The embalming fluid contains some of the elements not found in our world, but this is not the total secret. The body must lie in an air-tight receptacle, into which a secret gas is pumped. The dead body, lying in this receptacle for 2 hours, absorbs certain parts of the gas, which enters the pores and touches those parts of the dead body not reached by the injected fluid. By this process, no part of the body is subject to putrefaction, and the muscles all retain their rigidity, so that 100 years after burial, the features are full, although discoloured. Not many of the common people are thus embalmed, but the bodies of prominent men and women are thus treated at government expense, and unborn generations can look upon the full contour of their faces. Another secret held by these experts is the art of maintaining youthful vigour in old age. This is a very expensive method, and the government prohibits any one securing this treatment who has not won special honour in one or another particular channel. One of the highest distinctions bestowed upon any citizen of Zik is to grant him the Angel's honour, which entitles him to receive the vigour treatment during the balance of his natural life. This one thing, more than any other, is the secret of Zik, having so long a list of illustrious characters. It is the ambition of each boy or girl to make progress and some day win the Angel's honour. The religious life of these Zikites is unusually intense. Their language is much more cumbersome than ours. They have a small book which contains a list of great truths, whose authors claim to have been influenced by the All-Powerful, or the same as our God. This book has had a remarkable history, and has moulded the life and character of millions. Every person is left to his own notions in religion, and we see here the same picture that confronts us on our own planet, the very good and the very bad in the same house and neighbourhood. They build but few churches, but here and there a home of a believer is the centre of a worshipping company. On special occasions the worshippers rent or secure large public buildings, and have an enthusiastic time. At many places their Bible speaks of a place where the departed go after death, beyond the Zik life. These worshippers are linked to their God by the same kind of love cords that bind Christians to their Master in our world. You cannot imagine my interest and my joy as I learned that the Zikites are looking forward to a period of time corresponding to our millennium. Their religious literature is full of references to this coming golden age, and many poetical compositions point to it with rapturous melody of language. End of chapter 16.